first time I met Jesus? I think we would have to go back to before I had met him. As a child, I was abused severely. I have dents in the back of my head, and I have ribs that will never go back in place. And my favorite room growing up was the bathroom because it was the only room that I got to lock the door. And it was weird to me because I would go to school and I was so bright and talented, and these teachers recognized, my thirst to learn. But then I would go home and my mom would always tell me, "You're so smart, but you're so dumb." And yeah, it got to the point where I remember one time I was at a friend's house and I got thrown up against the shelves and I was getting beat, and it freaked out my friends. They ran downstairs to where the basement was. And I remember going down there because I had finished and they were hearing me scream, and I didn't know what to tell them. No one knew that about me when I was in school. When I was in elementary, I was in middle, and I was in high school. I was always that loving, very laughing, and I wanted everyone to feel good about themselves because I didn't want them to feel how I felt. And it got to the point when I was about 13, I felt this pull one day. When people have anxiety, they have intrusive thoughts. I had this really strong intrusive thought with this pulling. You're gonna go downstairs, you're gonna get a knife, and you're gonna stab yourself. And I remember I was crying, and I was sitting on the floor and I was crying out, and I didn't know God the way I knew him back then. I was raised Catholic. And I remember I was just like, I don't want to, God, I don't want to do this. And I was crying to the point where every fiber of my being, like when you cry to the point where there's no noise. And I was in Isaiah 53, they talk about how Jesus was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And I used to cry myself to sleep. I used to be in the corner. I would cry every night. And in hindsight now, I know I was praying. I was praying to God, not knowing that I was praying, because in the Catholic world, they're very written out. You have to memorize them, and they sound a very specific way. And then when I was 16, I was a part of this leadership thing, and it was a Sunday. I went to church, and then it was a Christian church. I went to church, and then at the leadership thing, it was about 30 minutes away. My car broke down. And then next thing I know, the thing got canceled. Then I had to come back because that parent was like, okay, I'm going back to church. And I'm like, I already went today. Why do we have to go again? And so I ended up going because I was told to do so. And as we were in praise and worship, we were singing. I remember getting angry, and I'm like, this is dumb. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I just remember being really angry. And then I felt something on me. And I remember my hand just kind of lifting. And now that I know him, I know that it was an intercessor praying for me, inviting him in. They were advocating for me because he was advocating for me. And I was angry because I felt unworthy, because if these people that I mirrored these genetic features of couldn't love me to the point I have dents in the back of my head, how could the God of the universe love me? I felt so unworthy and unlovable. And I remember in that moment, my hands were lifting up on their own. And then when they got to this, I just remember this heavy presence being on me, and I began weeping because it was I was inviting him in, and I knew that was Jesus. And I knew, now that I've been through my walk, I was 16 at the time, that God was it's time. You're going to have to get to know me in a very personal and intimate way through the trials and fires you're going to have to go through to where you're at right now. So you're going to have to get to me. It's time. And that was the moment that I met Jesus. And I remember I got baptized right away after that. And the way that he's been using me, My ministry is definitely trauma, and it doesn't have to be like even children. And I'm an intercessor, so he's shown me that and that feeling of never wanting to have someone feel the way I feel when I pray. I pray for my brothers and sisters of things that hold them that may have not been their fault, or things that they did that they're still holding on to. When I talk about the trauma, I don't talk about you. I just talk about what happened, not the person who did it. And even to the people who may abused other people as well. I don't know your walk, but if you became a new creation and you're truly serving God, I know he can work through you the way that he's worked through that person in my life. And I've seen this person become a new creation.
What does Jesus mean to you?
Definitely in my 20s, I learned that he was Abba. For people who don't know what that means, a very Christianese word, but he's my dad. He's the person I run to when I'm in need or I'm excited or I'm happy about it. He's the first person I want to talk to. He's my Jehovah Jireh. He's my provider. He's my Jehovah Shalom. He's my peace. But definitely I think for number one, he is my Abba. And God doesn't pick favorites, but my own personal relationship with him, I feel like I'm the apple of his eye. But everyone else can also feel that as well. And, if they truly want to have a personal relationship with him.